that's frankly kind of rude. I still don't have one.
It's something we see right away here. Wheezing Harsies is opting to kill this first mob, while we see a lot of teams is skipping that one with a...
You know what, though? We saw that backfire last week where somebody skipped this first mob and then they had a wipe and then had to deal with it after anyways. But you're right, they do skip it. Now, did Raider.io skip it by MCing it or by shrouding past it? Because the Blood DK can indeed control Undead on that. I guess they didn't in the end. I don't see it anywhere with them. But moving through this hallway, there's just so much trash in here. It's so dangerous. And keep in mind, of course, these are new affixes for the day that we haven't seen here. So if you're tuning in from home, Raging means that when these trash monsters reach 30% health, as you can see, they grow in size there and get a bit of an enrage icon on their head. They do 100% increased damage. They're already fortified, meaning they do more damage. They do 100% increased damage on top of that, and then we have Grievous, and what Grievous means is that any player below 90% health gets an increasing dot stack on them, and the only way to get rid of it is to be healed over 90%. So, I mean, Trekkie, when these mobs hit below 30% health, it's not always just the tank that's in danger, right? If these mobs have an AoE ability and they're enraged, I mean, the healer's going to be struggling too.
Yeah, right here we actually see that AoE ability going off there. Penny from Heaven is landing off, and you can generally deal with it by stunning, but at that point, due to Fortified...
Oh, jeez, this got crushed so hard.
And getting so low. But yeah, due to Fortified, they have so much HP that they don't get destroyed as fast, so they will stay up, which means that if you start stunning them right away, the stuns are going to be on diminishing return when they actually become dangerous and go really low.
And we did see very smart from Wheezing in the meantime while they were finishing up those last couple mobs. There were a couple of players that did come down to the stage to start the event because, of course, there is a lot of RP associated with starting the Opera event, not Oprah event, just for those viewers at home. We're not starring Oprah here. Raider.io already has pulled this, though. Wheezing's only slightly ahead on Trash, so the advantage currently is definitely in Raider.io's position. It looks like we have the Beauty and the Beast tail, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and they already killed the Broom as well. It starts chasing around people, CCing them if they reach it. You can dispel they get faster, but you can dispel it. They just destroyed that one, just don't want to deal with it at all, and now they're on to, I believe, the Cauldron, right? Yeah, Miss Cauldron. Trying to deal with that. She does a cast all the time that you want to make sure they interrupt. So if you just focus her, you just get rid of that, have everyone just channel their interrupts there. And
yeah, it seems that they're cooking up some pretty good DPS right now. It is important to note that, you know, some of you at home might be saying, well, why aren't they just killing them all together at the same time? Where Coggleston in the back is actually immune until you kill the first 3 mini-bosses. And each time you kill one of those mini-bosses, it heals the other 2 to full. So the focus actually is very much on single target here and making sure you kill one of them at a time very efficiently.
Yeah, Lumiere does one cast. He fills up the whole room with fire, but he does a cast that's Heat Wave that you just need to interrupt. But after you have dealt with that Cauldron, you don't have that much to interrupt. There's nothing else to really interrupt, but keeping her alive will is going to do a lot of damage on the raid. It isn't tyrannical, so this boss should die relatively easily for both teams.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. So once Coggleston does become active, he of course summons his little spoon buddies, which is, you know, very real life, and that's exactly what happens to us all.
Forks, actually.
You know, whatever. I eat spoon.
Cutlery.
Let's just call them cutlery. So you do have to kind of cleave them down. They're not anything too out of hand. I do believe they do get a stacking damage increase throughout the fight. So cleaving them down passively in a non-tyrannical setting is not too dangerous. And we're now seeing Wheezing Harsies as well just now pull up on the last boss too. But Raider.io is indeed done. And this is where we start moving to some of the most dangerous trash in here. And it's really easy to accidentally overpull in these hallways.
Yeah, these are big pulls. They're probably going to do, and they're probably going to just line of sight them so they all get... Actually, they're going to be skipping them instead with Shroud.
Those sneaky snakes. So they're moving right past these, some of these backstage underbelly casters. They don't want to deal with them. Now, these pulls coming up as well, especially where we're going to see the Vengeance Demon Hunter shine later. I would be shocked to see them pull everything together, but also not shocked to see them pull everything together, as this is a race at the end of the day. This is going to be really important that they silence these mobs properly.
Yeah, they have the Solar Beam. The stun coming out first. You're probably going to see Solar Beam right after, and then after that, well, the Rogue just doing 25 million DPS. It's a big pull, just CC them all. That Solar Beam is very important too, and after that one comes out, they're going to start rotating Arcane Torrent, but that charge is getting completely demolished. 25 million DPS.
Just demolished. And you could tell that the Warrior was off CD with his cooldowns. They're probably rotating them properly, knowing exactly the kind of numbers they need to keep themselves safe. And they're probably going to do some kind of mediocre pull coming up with these these Ushers, rather, to make sure that they kind of nail them down pretty quickly. These are also quite dangerous because of their flashlight ability, which you do need to turn around for, otherwise you will get disoriented and take more damage. But even if you're turned around, it does a fair amount of damage.
Yeah,
as we saw there.
And especially on Raging, if these get a cast off when they're low, they're gonna do so much damage. And the tank has to turn around too, and he can be hit from the behind. And just after that Raging, he just started the cast of Flashlight, but they were dying anyway. So as long as the cast is going off when they're above 30%, should be pretty safe.
Yeah, they definitely want to make sure, throw the fuzz jumping so low there. They do want to make sure that they kill these Ushers before they get their flashlight off at the Enraged, which is why you see the punt there. They're doing absolutely anything they can to make sure that the flashlight does not go off with the 100% damage of Raging. Could have easily one-shot some players if two of them went off there. They're going to be moving through, and here is where they're going to have to make the decision. Are we going down to Morose or Attumen, or do we go left and go on to Maiden?
Yeah, and here they're doing a super big pull. That looked like they're going for Maiden, or they're just taking trash they need to kill anyway, but they're pulling all back, trying to line of sight them so they all come. There's a few casters there, and it can be a little bit annoying interrupting them when they're so spread out, but they're killing them all pretty fast here actually, and Moonkin just doing the highest amount of damage just because they never got that chance to be spread out.
And we see Wheezing Harsies not too far behind, just pulling the remaining Ushers, of course, not the popular R&B artists, but the ads in this dungeon. They'll have to make the decision soon as well. Most typically, of course, we do see groups going up to Maiden first, because it's usually easiest to backtrack rather than going all the way downstairs to Morose, because, of course, going to Morose, you jump off that balcony, and if you have to backtrack, well, you're going to have to go through a bunch of trash that you usually do not have to deal with.
And generally, you opt to do the Bloodlust on the first boss, and then you kind of want to have it for the for Morose as well. So doing Morose as the second boss will mean that you either save Bloodlust or you're not using it for Morose, which I believe is probably a little bit of a misplay, not especially during non-tyrannical affixes, because Maiden can be a little bit dangerous during tyrannical, but after the nerfs, not that much. And you see Raider IO just pulling up to her and just doing really big pulls, getting them all out of line of sight. These do a very nasty frontal stun as well that the melee have to make sure that they always constantly deal with.
And the tank as well. Definitely don't want to be caught in that. It's a 4-second shield slam AoE from one of these mobs. I believe it's the guards that do it. So they've quite easily dealt with that trash, and of course are pulling Maiden as their second boss. Now the main mechanics to worry about here is there is an interrupt that you don't want to go off on the tank, otherwise they get permanently debuffed for the fight taking increased holy damage. And Trekkie, of course, the main mechanic of the fight is the consecrates that go out. When combined with her casting Repentance, you want to make sure that you're taking damage during her Repentance in order to break out of the Repentance so that you could damage her shield, which, if it goes off, they're dead.
Yeah, indeed, it's an instant wipe, and we have seen teams fail to get into that Consecrate and not be able to get off the debuff. However, we also have Raging, and we have Grievous here too, which means that it's going to be interesting to see, because this is going to be a lot of damage coming out on the group now. And I think it's just like the Miaoshan has the debuff here, and they're having the everyone go in that has to. We actually saw the Rogue just cloak it, and the DK just AMSs, so they don't have to go into the Consecrate.
And we see Wheezing, kind of closing the gap more and more. They were about a pack and a half, 2 packs behind Raider.io earlier. Now they're both on the boss, and of course they're, about 30-35% behind Raider.io, but they're closing that gap pretty quickly. I mean, it's pretty neck and neck at this point. 0 deaths from either team. It's going to be a really close match by the end of it.
And Wheezing has more percent too, so they are actually they are a pack ahead, if that pack is even going to be much of an issue, because Raider.io might pull more later on that Wheezing might need to pull anyway, right? So they might have just overpulled a little bit by getting a little bit too much percent.
So Maiden should be going down here for Raider.io momentarily, after which I expect we'll see them backtrack all the way to that central decision area where they chose their next boss and jumping down the balcony. Of course, you see this beautiful RP cinematic for the first time there for a moment. They'll be running off to Morose, and Wheezing Harsies will be dealing with Maiden for the remainder.
Yeah, it looked like Raider IO was killing Maiden just as she was casting her second Repentance. So Wheezing Harsies now might actually have enough DPS, might have more DPS to kill it before the second Repentance.
They actually do have a bit more because there was about a 35–40% health gap between the two of them, and they closed it to about 25–30 by the time Raider.io had killed it. So another massive pull in Morose's room, of course, again, from Raider.io. We see this. It's kind of just how they play their game, mass grip everything and cleave it down.
Yeah, mass grip is such a huge DPS increase for the whole group. It looks like only the rogue actually ended up doing damage on that whole pull. He just deleted everything. They pulled it all, just gripped them, and it just died.
They waste no time CCing two of Morose's buddies at his dinner table, which is very rude. They pull Morose down with two of the ads, which they will of course cleave down. Now of course all these ads have different abilities. Some you need to watch out for frontal, some you need to watch out for a whirling weapon, some you need to interrupt, so I'm sure they'll do an excellent job taking care of that while dealing as much damage to Morose as possible.
Yeah, they're dealing with them one by one, which is generally what you want to do. You want to kill one, get one down, and then go for the second one. And then Morose has this ability that when he goes at 66%, I believe, he actually frees all his dinner guests. So those two mobs that you saw with CC'd, we still see one CC'd. It's gonna break any moment now from unless they re-CC it, which they might have, might be able to. Right now, actually, there we go. It got un-CC'd there.
Yeah, there are a few classes that can permanently actually CC those, like a Hunter, which of course they don't have the option for right now. I believe Priest can, as well as Shackle. Needless to say, none of those options exist for Raider, excuse me, Raider.io or for Wheezing, so they will be DPSing the ads down to make their life easier. Now, Lord Crispin is the particularly dangerous one that does that huge holy frontal. As we're seeing now on the screen, it just went off. Players have to pay real close attention to make sure they're not hit by that. It's a ton of damage on top of Morose's stacking Garrote bleed, which just could be lethal in the end.
Yeah, and that Garrote added on to that on Grievous too, like constant damage on you, and then whenever you're not above 90, you get a stacking debuff too. Can be very dangerous if this boss goes on for too long. But Wheezing Harsies is pulling the boss now.
And Meow Chan just doing such a good job of making sure that all the players are topped off immediately. He does not want any of that. He does not want to deal with a Grievous stack on top of Garrote, making sure that players hit 90% as soon as they dip below it right away, which is why his damage is not as high as it usually is for bosses, making sure to take care of the party members there. Wheezing, of course, trying to chisel through that boss now. You know what? I think Raider.io pulled a fair bit ahead here by doing that mass pull in the room with the AoE grip. It's just so useful having that huge pull. Now they're stealthing by the rest of the trash, calculated percentages ahead of time, of course, I'm sure, and they're moving down to Attumen's room.
Yes, a big thing to note as well. Raider.io has opted to skip a lot of the big mobs. Right now, they're going for another really big tank. The tank actually, no, fucking Purgatory.
He's running Purgatory.
And almost dying there, but yeah, he managed to get back up. But Raider.io going for these really big pulls with a lot of small mobs, but they ignore the big mobs that just take a lot of time to kill. So that, like, time-wise, it's a big strat, but they're pretty far behind on percentage compared to Wheezing Harsies.
That's true, yeah, they will save a bit of time. For instance, Wheezing can entirely avoid that pull that they just did. You know, it's lucky that he was running that Purgatory. He was able to save his life. Morose should be going down here momentarily, opting to completely skip Crispin Ferenc and not kill him at all. Morose will die there. Now, they can't really, I'm not sure on the way down, I didn't see them if they pulled some of the trash leading down to Attumen. They do not have the option to skip that trash unless they invis-pot, which I doubt they will.
Yeah, this is a very big pull again from Raider.io here. Killing all these. This is a pretty dangerous pull with the Journeymans, and they just put a debuff on you that if you stand in someone else's circle, you take a lot of damage, but you don't actually take that much damage when your own explode. And with Fortified, these are going to stay alive for quite a while, and with Raging as well. We see them all growing in size now. They're all less than 30%. The Druid going super low as well, still having the debuff.
So of course you're in the stables of Attumen. You do need to kill all of the trash prior to pulling the boss. If you do pull the boss, he will aggro everything in the room. They will run over to you and lightly smack you in the face very hard, and you will die. So they have to be very careful. They have to saddle up and make sure they kill all the horses around. Meanwhile, Raider.io is moving around the circle, getting ready to pull Attumen at the end of the path, while Wheezing Harsies is just now starting some of that trash. So once again, we're seeing this constant about 2 trash pack differential between these two teams.
But Wheezing Harsies going for an even bigger pull here, and this could be very dangerous with the Chargers too as well. Did the Warlock died?
No, I was just going to say Sigil of Silence.
Oh
There
yeah,
we go.
Sigil of Silence, but they can still charge, I believe. That's not on the silence, but they can silence all the journeymen, so they can skip a lot of the raid damage.
And they can skip the healing too, right? The stable hands do try to cast heals on their fellow horsies and buddies to make sure that they're harder to kill, but they handle that quite well.
Yeah, Raider IO is not. Is this going to come up to if they had everything perfectly calculated with the percentage here? Because if they had, then Wheezing Harsies just pulled way too much, and now we're actually seeing them go on to Attumen, which means that they have another 20% that they have to find somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to find it at the boss, that's for sure, so they will have to backtrack unless there is an issue with the display, which, you know, has happened. I'll just assume there isn't. We'll see at the end of this dungeon if they do complete it. If a chest pops up, we'll know there was an unfortunate issue with the display. But definitely these two teams have run this dungeon a ton and know exactly what to pull and how to calculate it. So I would assume that they know what's up.
Yeah, Raider IO now coming to, I think, DPS midnight, and now they have to deal with Attumen, and the DPS coming out here is so high that he's probably just gonna go back into the phase where he jumps up on the horse again instead of having to actually do any real mechanics, because it does a shared suffering ability that we're actually seeing right now. They're all stacking in there, but opting not to try to solo it. That's super dangerous with just 4 people.
It's not as dangerous, though, during Fortified, but, I mean, it is, you know, it's a ton of damage, ton of shadow damage that they do have to split. Of course, he does remount once Midnight reaches max HP again, and they will have to repeat phase 1, this time with some ghost horses coming from the outside. Down in the bottom corner, and Midnight, they have already downed Attumen himself, Raider.io. They will be killing Midnight in the meantime. We'll see if Wheezing can also one-phase Attumen, otherwise, like I alluded to, they will have to repeat phase 1, and that would be a huge time loss. Now, it seems like they did not get a chest, so they are very quickly running, and knowing the kind of pulls they've done, they're probably just planning one last huge pull here with an AoE grip. So can Wheezing, in the meantime, kill Attumen? But they're also 5% behind.
They have another 5%. This is pretty interesting as well. They go for a pack that you generally don't have to deal with. It was a little bit of an outlay in the old Karazhan too, that there's trash above Midnight, but outside of like one event, you didn't ever really have to go there, so a lot of people don't actually ever go here. If that's gonna end up giving them another 20%.
Oh, 2 of them just getting down to 4% health because of that AoE damage from raging mobs, barely hanging on. Raider.io getting the last part of the percentage that they need. And of course, Midnight now dying for Wheezing. Wheezing needing 5% extra trash. And Raider.io just struggling now to find some extra trash. 14%. Which team will it be first?
Yeah, Wheezing having 5% and Raider.io having 14% left to go. This is going to be super close.
So they're just pulling now the last percentage that they need. They're LOSing it down the stairs to make sure they're grouped up well. And it's just do or die at this point. We'll see Raider.io's percentage be going up. Wheezing Harsies going up as well. 90%. They need one more mob. They didn't pull exactly as much as they needed. Wheezing seeing if they have the last mobs that they need here. Hopefully it's perfectly calculated. Or is Raider.io done and it was a display issue? They might actually be done at this point because they're kind of just dancing around.
They have, yeah, they seem to have given up or like finished dungeon.
That is 100. Okay, so we've just received word it is 100. Raider.io does indeed take that. There was just a display issue. Good thing, because my old man heart cannot take any more palpitations after that. But Raider.io with another dominant performance takes it.
Yeah, that was we got our administrative ruling of the day.
Yeah.
That is in